Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zaki, Sean, and Ryan are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to Movie Film. This is episode 63, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. My name is Zaki Hassan, and joining me, as always, is my good friend Brian Hall.
Hey, what's going on, Zaki?
How have you been, man?
I've been good. It feels like it's been a while, but I don't think it has. Right? I mean, sometimes we take an extra week if there's a holiday or something like that, but this is the regular 2 weeks. But it feels like it's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah. I have a Pavlovian response.
I know you do.
I think you just do that on purpose. You just do that on purpose at this point. Yeah, it's been a hectic couple weeks because my spring semester has started and the boys' school has started, and I haven't talked to you as much because my oldest kid is in Boy Scouts now, and the great thing about him being in Boy Scouts is that it's a giant pain for us because we have to shuttle him all over creation.
Yes.
Which is and again, this is I take my responsibilities as a parent seriously enough. I'm not going to say very seriously, but seriously enough where I'm like, I don't want to do anything that'll impede his good memories. So that's why I make sure to take him to his stuff. But
right.
it can be problematic. A few weeks ago, he had some scout thing or whatever Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Right, and this is borders on sadistic, if you ask me.
Right.
But it was actually at the Oakland Zoo, which is about half an hour from where we live. So what we decided was, okay, while he's got his thing going on at the zoo, we'll take the other kids around the zoo, and we'll just keep everybody busy.
Zoo it up. Yeah.
Zoo it up. That was actually, I had a T-shirt that said that. So, and so we were there, and my oldest, he's in his Boy Scout thing, and my second oldest, he's now 6. He'll actually be turning 6 in 2 days. He saw that there's this thing at the zoo. It's called the Sky Chair, something like this, and what it essentially is a gondola that you sit in, and it takes you above the entirety of the zoo. Okay, so and it's fairly high up, and now dirty little secret here, which I'm going to broadcast to the world, is I am terrified of heights.
Okay.
I'm like pants pissingly terrified of heights. That's where my situation is. But I can't tell my kid that. I can't be like, no,
right.
So he's like, oh, can we go on that? I'm like, of course, sure thing. There, So we get in this thing, and we're up there, and first of all, it's moving far too slowly.
Uh-huh.
Like slow enough so that you can, see all the animals and everything,
yeah.
but really slow enough so that you have the full opportunity to ponder your own mortality.
Right. And imagine the death, the slow death that awaits if it fell.
Well, and it doesn't help that you have to. But this is partially my fault. I had just watched Cliffhanger like 3 days before.
Yeah.
You've seen the opening scene of Cliffhanger?
I've actually never seen Cliffhanger.
You've never seen Cliffhanger, really?
I've never seen Cliffhanger, no.
Okay, well you really should watch. We should stop recording and you should go watch Cliffhanger right now because that's I don't know what to say. But regardless,
yes.
The opening scene of Cliffhanger involves a pulley.
I am familiar with the scene. Yeah.
Not unlike the one that was pulling me along, right? And so every as this chair, which is easily like 50 feet up.
Yeah,
I'm guessing. Yeah. I'm probably exaggerating that, but it's enough that every little swivel has me going like, what the hell,
Right.
What's
why?
Yeah, and then here's the other thing. My kid is sitting next to me, and this is honestly, I love my kid, but I worry that he's kind of like borderline sociopath because he's like, what would happen if it stopped? What would happen if I cut the rope? Would you fall down? Yeah, he was. I felt like I was sitting next to Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son.
Right.
Where I'm like, he's like, how long do you think you could hold on, Father? It was really weird. I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And my knuckles weren't white. They were actually transparent by the time we finally stopped.
Yeah.
So really, I've realized that this I blame my son's Boy Scouts for all of this because it puts me in this position.
Yeah.
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 The
No, I'm not a heights guy either, but I
Yeah.
kind of dig it actually because I'm afraid of heights. I think that's why I kind of like those rides because you get to defy your fear for just like a brief amount of time.
See, I tend to play the percentages, and I'm kind of like everything is a freak accident until you're the freak that the accident happens to.
Oh, see, that's funny because I always assume it's going to happen to the guy in front of or behind me.
Well, you that's probably the case because you tend to have some
don't know.
some good luck, but I don't know. I'm always like, I mean, there's always those stories, right? Like there's like this is a few years ago where this girl was on one of those like drop of doom rides,
Yeah.
and as it was dropping, like some cable accidentally went taut across her feet, and it like chopped her feet off.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Ugh.
That is nightmare juice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, you say, well, what are the sheer odds of that? And it's fair enough, but you can only say that when you're not the person that happens to.
I know. Actually, you just gave me an idea. I think I'm going to market something called Nightmare Juice. It's going to be this like amazing, like not an energy drink. It's got to be something different. I don't know. Maybe it has like.
I see it being like Ecto Cooler. Remember from?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's much nicer. Yeah. Oh man, this is too bad. We're so early into the episode because this is where you'd be like, well, speaking of Ecto Cooler.
I know. I blew my wad a little bit, but actually, I do have some other news, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, there is the Film Critics Circle, the San Francisco Film Critics Circle, and this is an organization that has among it members who write for Variety and the San Francisco Chronicle. The San Jose Mercury News, Rotten Tomatoes, Wired, etc. And as of last week, I have been inducted into their ranks.
That is so awesome. I'm seriously so proud of you.
It's crazy. It's a little bit surreal, and what's kind of nutty about it is that I think back and I wrote my very first movie review. This is true. 20 years ago next month.
Wow.
And so when I look at the journey that I've been on to the point where I just kept doing it, even when nobody wanted me to do it, there was no audience for it. I just kept doing it because I had nothing to do. And to reach a point where there's a certain degree of validation by my peers who say, yeah, this guy is worth joining us. I think that's pretty cool.
I think so too. Like some people do it for a hobby, and I'll say for myself, like sort of a passing thing. You kind of enjoy it for a little bit, but you're not passionate about it. And I enjoy discussing movies. That's why I enjoy this podcast. And like you have been writing them as long as I've known you, writing these reviews. So I mean, it's just really awesome for me to see you get rewarded with this induction and everything. And I think it's well deserved. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's cool because what this means essentially, every year they have the Critics Circles Award. So like the New York Times film critics have given Boyhood Best Picture of the Year, whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, when you hear about the San Francisco film critics, I will be among them. So I will have voted for the best films of the year.
Yeah. And when you guys induct, like Grown Ups 2 is the best film of 2000,
that's going to be me.
Like, oh, Zaki.
Yeah, I know. Oh. I didn't know I would swing the votes, But yeah, so that's kind
awesome.
of a cool thing. I have to admit, I don't like doing like the self-congratulatory thing in this podcast because it feels very indulgent. But you know what, I have to admit, I mean, it's nice. You know what I mean? It's nice,
cool. And it brings a pedigree to this podcast that I was clearly not. I'm not bringing anything here. This is anything that's being brought in is brought by you.
Well, you have my reflected glory.
Ah.
So there is that. By the way, point of trivia: do you know what my very first movie review was?
Probably not. Actually, I was gonna say something. Oh, go.
Well, I was in high school, so you definitely wouldn't because we didn't know each other back then. It was Rumble in the Bronx.
Really?
Jackie Chan. That's the very first.
That's hilarious. How do you even review that movie?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to go back and look it up because I'm actually in the process. What I'm trying to do is like all of my pre-internet reviews. I'm trying to get them typed up and put on my blog just so that they're archived.
For sure. Yeah.
So I absolutely need to dig that up. But I think the as I recall, the very first line of my review is something like, "Where has this guy been?" Is the first thought that because Jackie Chan, if he'd been around for a while, but he never like weirdly. Rumble in the Bronx was like the movie that broke through in the U.S.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's weird now because it's like
Thinking how much further back he goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my it's weird, I mean, I think back to like my first batch of reviews and it was like all these movies that nobody remembers anymore. Like Rumble in the Bronx was one, Ransom.
Man, that is a movie that just like completely escaped the public consciousness.
It really,
Give me back my son.
I was going up to random people on the street and saying that.
Yeah.
For a while there.
If I remember right, that was like a decent movie, right?
That's my memory of it. It's funny because unfortunately Mel Gibson has gotten so subsumed into just bat crap crazy Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
That like that persona that like I think it's sort of like gone backwards in time and infected his other movies to some extent. Yeah. Where I don't know, like I would have to rewatch it. I remember really liking it at the time though.
Yeah. Well, have we ever talked about, and not to go down a whole rabbit trail here, but have we talked about on the podcast Ron Howard movies? Like, he's a good filmmaker, made a lot of good movies, but like, what makes a Ron Howard movie? Like, I forgot he did Ransom.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, we did a whole episode about Apollo 13, if you remember.
Yeah.
I think Ron Howard is, and I mean this sounds, diminutive, and it's not meant that way. But I mean I don't think there is an oeuvre of Ron Howard. I think he tends to be very chameleonic. Except that he tends to make very commercial movies. Is my,
sure.
Yeah. I mean he although Rush, he made Rush, which was very good, and not that many people watched.
So good.
Such a good movie, right?
One of my favorite movies of
of last year, yeah. And his next movie is also Chris Hemsworth. It's In the Heart of the Sea.
Right. Supposedly the tale that inspired Moby Dick.
Yeah, which I'm willing to bet that's being exaggerated. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw the ad. I was like, I bet that's not true, but
yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's very cool. So folks, check out the archive of my reviews. I've added a page to my website where it's just a link that lists all of my reviews thus far in alphabetical order, and I'll be adding to that both frontwards and backwards as time goes on. So keep a look at it. And thanks sincerely, like to everybody who's listening. Thanks for your support, because if you're listening to the show, there's at least a possibility that you ended up here because of my reviews and the comments that you've made. So I do appreciate that. That's all.
That's it.
But we do have some listener letters that I wanted to get to before we get to other news. And this is from Daniel, who emailed us at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. And he says, you guys have gotten me hooked on the How Did This Get Made podcast, which we've mentioned that quite a few times on the show. Because after you mentioned it a few times, are there any other podcasts you recommend?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Brian, you're like a podcast fan. I know you listen to a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of your faves?
Well, it's funny with podcasts too, because you can, it's not like the radio where it happens and then you can never hear it again. I mean, you can have them stored up for a while, and I'll have phases where I plow through them and then I run out of stuff, and then I'll have phases where they all pile up, you know what I mean? But the ones that I find myself going back to regularly, I love, what got me into even the whole concept of movie podcasts is the Slash Filmcast, which is an excellent film podcast. And then I love How Did This Get Made, obviously. The Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith,
that's
highly
really
recommended. If you're interested in writing or filmmaking, he is this guy who interviews writers just after he's screened their films, and he asks them the questions you wish people would ask the people you're interested in. He digs a little deeper, and sometimes he'll call them out like, this didn't make sense in the movie. And you kind of squirm a little bit, but you're like, hey, at least he's asking. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
WTF with Mark Maron, which
you turned me on to.
Yeah, he's this comedian and kind of this like a self-loathing guy, But he gets these really, I guess he does these interviews with all sorts of people in his garage, and he really gets these people comfortable, and they go to places that typical interviews don't necessarily go, and they're way just intimate is the word that I always think of when I think of his interviews and stuff. Those are kind of my big ones. But Nerdist too, the Nerdist podcast.
Nerdist podcast. That's another good one. Yeah.
Yeah, just listen to an excellent one on that with Paul McCartney. Man, that was a good one.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I'll just say this as a little anecdote for that because I love the Beatles. We've all seen the Ed Sullivan footage where it's black and white, and that's like an iconic moment in American history in a way. And then Chris Hardwick, the host of the Nerdist podcast, got to ask Paul McCartney, okay, so I know this is like a 2D black and white image. What was that experience for you? And then I was like, wow, I've never heard Paul McCartney talk about this. And he just talks about it, what it was like to be in the makeup chair, what it was like the guy holding the curtain back, and da-da-da-da. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. So another very conversational sort of podcast that gets really good stuff out of his
Chris Hardwick is a great interviewer.
Uh-huh.
He really does a good job of getting people to open up.
Yeah, definitely. But what about you? Sorry.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, I'm just glad that Kanye West discovered this Paul McCartney guy because kid's got talent. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, look that up. Just Google Paul McCartney and Kanye West. I'm not getting into that. But in terms of shows that I listen to, I started listening to the Mark Maron podcast because of you, Brian. Mm-hmm. How did this get made? I think you also turned me on to that, if I'm not mistaken. One of my favorites, and we've mentioned this a couple times, is Hollywood Babylon.
Yeah.
Which is Ralph Garman and Kevin Smith, and that's if there's a direct link to what sort of lit a fire under me to finally get the show going was what they were doing on that show, and I was like, oh man, they're having fun.
Yeah.
And that's what did it. It's funny. There's a lot of like fan podcasts that I generally stay away from, and and this sounds horrible and conceited, and it's not meant that way, but I mean generally because of sort of the DIY nature of a lot of shows like this, the quality can be really like all over the place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I tend to gravitate towards stuff that's either about a niche that I like or has a level of involvement by people who I find interesting. I mean, it's like a lot of the content is going to be the same, but it's who's talking about it and how are they talking about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But some really good shows out there. I mean, hopefully, if you're enjoying How Did This Get Made, some of the other shows that Brian mentioned. I mean, do check those out. Oh, and also, actually, let me put in a plug for my own other podcast, which is Diffused Congruence. Mm-hmm. It's not related to movies, but we do have some fun conversations with some interesting people. We actually just last month we talked with Asif Mandvi from The Daily Show. And had a real interesting talk about his sort of life and times and what led him up to being, Jon Stewart's sidekick. So, cool. Good stuff. Yeah. So do check that out. Another question here. This is from Doug, one of our regulars, Doug, and he says, "Random thoughts." This is actually from a few weeks ago. I forgot to get to it last time. Random thoughts. What is Zaki's Keira Knightley impression? I didn't catch it. And for those of you who've listened a while, you may have randomly heard me do my Keira Knightley impression, which goes something like this: "Oh, I'm Keira Knightley. I am." See, in my worldview, Keira Knightley is a chimney sweep.
Yeah, exactly.
who lives on the streets of Victorian London.
Yeah.
So this all started with I was watching. I wasn't even watching. I was sitting typing or something, and I had the TV on, and I think Jay Leno was on back when Jay Leno used to host the Tonight Show.
Oh yeah. I feel like I also remember this.
And he had Keira Knightley on, and this was, I want to say, around the time of the first Pirates movie, I believe.
Yeah.
And this like ear-piercing
Like that doesn't sound like that at all.
Like dog whistle type sound. Like my ears started bleeding. It was like this whole thing. I'm like, what is that? And it was Keira Knightley talking to Jay Leno. And it was I'm horribly I'm sure Keira Knightley is a lovely human being. I want to emphasize that. That being said, her voice at that particular time was a little bit high pitched. I was like, oh my God, stop talking! So I muted the TV. And the next day, I happened to talk to Sean, and he was like, hey, I was watching Jay Leno yesterday, and like my ears started spontaneously bleeding. I was like, and we were both at the same time, Keira Knightley. And that's where the Keira Knightley impression was born. And you have to realize it's morphed over time into something that has no relation at all to the real Keira Knightley. It's become the character who shares the name Keira Knightley with the actual person Keira Knightley.
Right.
So, what better place to have this completely insular, nonsensical, non sequitur impression than on my show that's listened to by thousands of people? Makes
Agreed.
No sense. Yeah. So Doug, I hope that answers that. The Great Keira Knightley Conundrum. Which should be the title of the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Keira Knightley Conundrum. Which
they are making.
Yes, they are. And Keira Knightley is not in it, which presents a conundrum. That being said, there are some new releases that are out or have been out. Brian, I understand you saw The Babadook.
The Babadook!
I just had a Babadook for lunch a couple days ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took a Babadook before work. So,
okay.
Anyway, The Babadook. This is...
that makes my lunch sound disgusting, but...
No, The Babadook sounds like a movie I would never, ever watch. It's
just based on the title.
Well, no, it's a small Australian horror film. And I'm just not a horror guy. I remember one time we were like, it's Halloween, let's have a horror episode. And we all listed our favorite horror movies, and they were all like Poltergeist and like the most like non-horror horror movies possible. It's like, okay, we're not horror guys, got it. But I had heard so many good things about this movie, and it had made so many people's like top 10 lists for the end of the year, and I was like, and the woman who's the lead character in this, her name is Essie Davis, and the only thing I think most people would know her from in this country is she was in the third Matrix film. So I mean, as one of the underground peeps. But I was like, all right, I gotta check this out. So I checked it out, and I gotta say, I really wanted to like it as much as everybody else, and I don't know that I did. But it is good. So like I'd say don't let this get overhyped for you. I was expecting like this is gonna change everything, sort of film. But no, it's just a well-made small horror film. And basically the story of it is I'll read it off IMDb because I never want to get into spoilers and stuff. But it says a single mother plagued by the violent death of her husband battles with her son's fear of a monster lurking in the house, but soon discovers a sinister presence all around her. And this is what's great about it is. And the horror that I tend to enjoy, movies like The Ring or The Shining or Poltergeist, it's usually not like gory, and there's nothing like super crazy going on. It's more like something sinister invades something normal, and that's basically what's going on here. I mean, the first third of this movie is really just about this mother and son experiencing their grief, after losing her husband and his dad, and just sort of the turmoil that it's put them both into in different ways, and how that makes them butt up against each other. And then you introduce this element of this weird presence that they call the Babadook, and it's like a psychological sort of horror film, and real lo-fi, but I mean that in the best way possible, honestly. The performances are amazing. I mean, you got Essie Davis is fantastic in this movie. I mean, she's not just like a woman to be terrorized in this movie. Like, she's a character, there's a lot going on with her here. And I recommend it for people looking for something a little bit different. It's not gory or anything like that, but it is creepy. It's a creepy movie, let's put it that way. So good creep factor going on here. The Babadook. I think it's available everywhere, VOD and all that.
Yeah, and it's playing in theaters too, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember when it came out exactly, because I mean, you can get it at home now. It was released November 28th, I guess, in the U.S.
Yeah,
but
so
anyway,
if you have like second-run theaters, it's playing there.
Yeah.
Well, I saw a new film that's actually due out later this week, and it's called Black or White.
Mm-hmm.
It's a biography of Michael Jackson. It's actually not a biography of Michael Jackson. Although I feel like they missed an opportunity not having that song in there. Yeah, this is have you heard of this?
I have. I know very little about it, so I'm really curious to hear you talk about it.
So it's directed by Mike Binder, and it stars Kevin Costner as the grandfather of a young mixed race girl who's who he has to take not ownership of, but sole care of, excuse me, after his wife dies. So okay, hold on. Let me connect the. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Kevin Costner and his wife are a white couple, and their daughter gave birth to a mixed race daughter. Their daughter died during childbirth. Mm-hmm. And so the grandma and grandpa, Kevin Costner, were left with this daughter, the granddaughter, to take care of as their daughter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Before the movie starts, Kevin Costner's wife has died in a car accident. So he has to now take care of his granddaughter, and at this point enter the girl's other grandma, who is played by Octavia Spencer. Mm-hmm. And she says no, she should be living with us, her people, because we're black and she's blackish, and that's essentially the dilemma here. So it turns into this custody battle between Kevin Costner and Octavia Spencer. And I desperately wanted to like this movie. Mainly because I just like Kevin Costner. I think we've established, right? Kevin Costner is just somebody we will always like.
Yeah.
Partially because we have such a fondness for the movies of his as a kid. But I mean, it's just I think he's a good actor. He's a generally a good actor, and this movie has its heart in the right place. But oh my God, it was a chore to sit through.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, huh.
It was weird because my biggest problem, I felt like it stacked the deck. It stacked the deck in terms of making, like, you as the audience are like, of course the girl should be with Kevin Costner.
Right. Because he's
Kevin Costner. Because he's Kevin Costner. And Octavia Spencer is kind of this, she's like a sitcom character. Mm. She's got this sitcom family,
Right.
And there's an underlying, like, the whole, like, her son, who is the girl's father, is like a recovering drug addict and this and that, and he's like on the wrong side of the tracks, and he's just kind of every cliche about a character like this. And there's one point where, like, so Octavia Spencer's brother is an attorney, and so he's like representing her case to, like, bring the girl back, and he's played by Anthony Mackie, who's very good. And he tells her son at one point, he's like, "You're a stereotype," and I'm like, that is so on the nose.
Yeah.
Like that's like lampshading.
Right.
The whole thing, So for me now, granted, I saw it with a primarily black audience, which I saw it in Oakland with a primarily black audience, and I will say that experience was a lot of fun because they were really into it.
Like, with the film, or just sort of like outside of the film and sort of.
They were dancing along to the film's beat, which I think says something about how effective it was.
Huh. All right.
You know what I mean? Like there were parts where, like, somebody said something, they'd be like, "You tell him."
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of that. So that made it a lot of fun. And it's like it has its heart in the right place. I just felt like I don't know. I don't know what other way there was to tell this particular story. But I feel like it wanted the question of race relations is maybe too complex,
right?
To be solved.
I was gonna say, I mean, does it feel like there's a winner and loser? Like, is this like black versus white in a way? You know what I mean? Like, if you portray one side as the wrong side, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I mean, we arrive at an ending that I think it's probably the only ending you could have.
Yeah.
Given the subject matter and everything else, and without spoiling it, but
Jesus returns, and they're all like, "Oh, great!" And I'll just leave.
and then the rapture happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Very unexpected.
Yeah.
But I would say the ending was probably the only one you could have, but I would argue that the film as an experience was not particularly satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But and I said this in my review of 3 Days to Kill last year. Kevin Costner tends to be good even when he's in mediocre movies.
Right.
And I would make the same case here. I think that as Kevin Costner has gotten older, I think he's gotten more watchable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was kind of effortless.
Yeah.
Like Robert Redford or something. I'm not. Yeah, I know. I don't want to put him on the same whatever, but I mean, like he just needs to show up, and he's just instantly interesting.
He really is, and I think he's got a lot of character in his face as he's gotten older,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's one. I mean, it's like a good Netflix movie, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. While we're talking about new releases, though, I mean, we can't very well not discuss American Sniper.
Yeah.
Which is just blazing through the box office. Now, just to set a little bit of context here, earlier today, and this is something, by the way, I never do. This is maybe a little bit inside baseball, but like when we record this show, I leave it as like in the past. I tend not to revisit our show for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, the only time I'll go back and listen to an episode is like if I have nothing else to listen to. I'm like, hey, why don't I just put on an old episode, right? Mm-hmm. So just by chance today, I put on I literally a random episode of this show, and it just so happened to be the episode from exactly 1 year ago.
Oh,
purely by chance. And we were talking about the movie Ride Along,
wow.
which a year ago, and we were commenting on how that movie was it broke the record for a Martin Luther King opening.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, Ride Along opened 1 year ago over Martin Luther King, and it made $48 million. So it broke the record for a box office weekend over Martin Luther King weekend.
Yeah.
Now, cut to 1 year later, and American Sniper opens to $103 million over Martin Luther King weekend.
I mean, holy crap.
Yeah. So now in terms of this film, obviously I don't think we need to set that much context in terms of what it's about. But it's based on the autobiography of Chris Kyle, who is the shootingest sniper in American history. I think that's the actual technical designation. He the deadliest sniper in American history.
Yeah.
And he passed away a few years ago. And it's by the way, folks, that's not a spoiler that he's dead. I've had a couple people get upset with me.
Right.
Read the news, people.
Yeah, it's a pretty well known fact, but
serious. That's like wondering if what happens at the end of Lincoln.
Kind of.
It's exactly the same thing. So that's kind of the story. That's what it's about. And this is obviously it's done very, very well, but it's also been a very polarizing film, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now I haven't talked about American Sniper with you at all, so I'm actually genuinely curious to hear your point of view. What did you think of this movie?
Well, first I'll comment on the box office, but this was this came out late December, limited release because it was like kind of an awards movie, and that's when I saw it. And so I was thinking of it as an awards movie and whatnot. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then, like 2 weeks later, it comes out, and then it makes Harry Potter money.
Right.
I was like, what? That's crazy. Not that it doesn't, nothing to do with the quality of the film, but I really can't believe that.
I don't think anybody expected that.
That's like Hunger Games money. You know what I mean? For like in January, for like an R-rated war film. Like, I don't know. I think that's incredible. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I liked it. I thought I didn't know a whole lot about the guy. And ever since it's come out, there's been a lot of people that find Chris Kyle as a person, polarizing figure. You feel this way or that way or whatever. But I just take as a straight film, because I haven't read his book and I don't know anything about him, to be honest. I was really taken with Bradley Cooper, his performance in this movie. I mean, Bradley Cooper is one of those guys that just kind of took you by surprise, I think. You know what I mean? He was handsome,
Yeah.
and then he does like this movie. He's like, oh, he's a Hangover, okay. And then he does this movie, and he's funny, and he's really kind of Silver Linings Playbook. You're like, oh, there's a little more to this guy. And then you do this, and he totally had that sort of like stoic, understated Southern guy thing, where like a lot of people would just like throw on this drawl, and it'd become like sort of this caricature. Like it was like understated. And I don't know. I think he did a really phenomenal job. Yeah, I just found it an interesting movie because I didn't find it a rah-rah movie. I know some people are for some reason, but I didn't find it that way at all, to be honest. I saw it as a film about a guy who had convictions and a determination to do something that he felt was right, and so he joins the military and he goes on his journey, and this journey involves a lot of like things that would torment anybody and get into your mind, and get into you as a person. And I feel like you're watching the slow sort of deterioration of a guy, and it doesn't make him less of a man, it doesn't make him a good guy or a bad guy, but you're just watching the effects of what this experience has done to this guy. And I felt like Bradley Cooper did a really good job of showing that without being showy, if that makes sense. Like by the end of the movie, I mean, because there are things that he says and things that he does where I was like, oh, I don't know, like it makes me a little uncomfortable. And then there are things, where you're like sort of rooting for him, and you're like, oh, well, good, And but at the end of the movie, he's a different guy by the end of the movie than he was at the beginning of the movie, and you're like, man, like this thing took a toll on him, whether he realizes it or not. It did. And so I found it a really interesting and well done character piece.
Yeah. Well, and it's I agree with you to the extent I think Bradley Cooper's fantastic in this. I mean, it's a transformative performance. And I mean, God, I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, what is this? His third Oscar nomination in 3 years?
Wow, is that right? Yeah,
I believe so, right? Because Silver Linings and it was 2 years ago, and then American Hustle. I think he was also nominated.
Hustle, right.
Right. But like you said, like I don't know that much about him, and kind of like you, like obviously I found out some more about the guy, the real guy, and it became, when I was working on my review, it became the situation of like, okay, how do I approach this? You know what I mean? What's my role as a critic in terms of the film and the reality that it presents? And so I actually said right up top in my review, I was like, you know what? I'm not the guy to talk about Chris Kyle as a person. That's beyond my purview. I'm just going to talk about the movie, right? And in the context of the film, I talked about a few things. Like I thought that, and I agree with what you're saying about how it depicts the ravages of PTSD and whatnot. One of the things that bothered me a little bit was how it jumped from 9/11 to Chris Kyle in Fallujah.
Mm-hmm.
So we go from 2001 to 2003. We just hopscotch right over it, and by implication, he's in Fallujah as a result of 9/11, and we just skip over the fact that Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? Like the factual stuff. Which I mean, in my opinion, that's important context, especially when you see, the Iraqis being depicted, I would say, overwhelmingly in a negative light.
Sure.
Right, that's my perception. So anyway, this is a long way of saying. So I made all this clear in my review, and somebody left a comment on my review. I don't know if you saw this.
I did, yeah.
Somebody leaves a comment, says, "Gee, Mr. Hassan," all caps, Hassan, "your take on this movie doesn't surprise me one bit. You're showing your bias. When speaking of savages, he was talking about the enemy. Have you lived here all your life, Mr. Hassan?" Again, all caps. "If so, then you really don't know the mentality of the people he was dealing with. You're an American now. Your culture, habits, and attitudes are much different than the folks over there. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Welcome to America. I want to refer to you from now on as my fellow American, Zaki Hassan, and go easy on the caps. Take care."
Go easy on the caps.
So I was just like, well, can't win.
Yeah.
So there's and then one other person said that I'm taking cheap shots at Chris Kyle because I'm a failed comic book writer.
Huh.
Which again, I mean, I haven't tried yet, so I haven't failed yet. But specifically said I was not going to take any cheap or any shots at Chris Kyle. I specifically said I was like, I'm not going to talk about the guy.
Yeah.
There's no winning because I gave the movie like a mixed review, I would say, and I think as a cinematic experience, it's incredibly effective. As a historical document, it's more problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is a topic of conversation. What role should films play in presenting history as it occurred?
Right. Yeah, I thought about that with this movie in mind. I mean, and then I was reminded of. And it kind of depends. I mean, certain things are a little more important than others. But like we talked about Cinderella Man, how the villain in that movie really wasn't a villain at all in real life.
Yeah.
The Great Debaters. Remember that movie? I always found that fascinating. Where it's about the first like all black debate team going to Harvard and winning a debate at Harvard, and that never happened. But that movie that's supposed to be a true story, that's the climax of the movie. So it's sort of like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, at what point do you just be like, well, it's a movie?
I mean, it's one of those things because as an artist, right, and I'm sure you agree, reflexively we're like, well, it's just art, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want history, read a history book. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we also recognize that the reality is a little silkier than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like when I say William Wallace, who are you thinking of?
Braveheart.
Well, and whose face is in front of your eyes right now?
You? Sorry.
Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is what I'm.
Oh, right.
Okay, so my entire argument just like collapsed like a house of cards.
Yeah.
But that's my point, right? It's like you think of the person.
Yes, of course.
That played them.
When
I say Moses, who do you think
of? In real life, there's been historical events I don't know much about, and I've actually said out loud, I wish they'd make a movie on it.
So that I could learn about this.
True. That's true. I've said that.
I believe you would have said that, yeah. But that's my point, right? So it's like for now until forever, Bradley Cooper is Chris Kyle.
Right.
Right? And so it's like, well, is there not something to be said about what's come out that he made up X, Y, and Z? And I mean some of this stuff is not even like it's been proven in a court of law that he was stretching the truth at best, right? Well, it's like the movie skips right over that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but isn't that part of the story if we're talking about the totality of this person? Right. That he had a propensity for making stuff up. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm really not trying to take this down to questioning the man at that level, but I mean, I wonder, in a broader sense, like what is the role of film in this,
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, like you said, it's for better or worse, they become historical documents for some.
Yeah.
Sort of like people who get their news from SNL,
Yeah, exactly. Or Fox News for that matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was talking about that with someone the other day. I mean, most people, we get our news from comedians these days. You know what I mean? Who obviously have a slant because they want to make a punchline work. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart or who are those guys on SNL now? I don't even know. This is how out of it I am.
Colin Jost and Michael Che.
Yeah, how are they doing?
Better.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still not the strongest team they've ever had, but they don't feel like, or at least Colin Jost doesn't feel like a deer in the headlights so much anymore.
Okay, he did a little bit last year, right?
Yeah.
It was him and Cecily Strong, as I recall, right?
Yeah, who I really like as a performer, but I don't know that she was a news presence.
She wasn't a good fit for the news. Yeah.
Yeah.
But regardless, while we talk about new releases, I wanted to mention a new release that's coming out in just a couple of days called Black Sea. And this is directed by Kevin Macdonald, who directed one of my favorite movies of the past 10 years, and I've talked about it a couple of times on this show, A State of Play.
Yeah.
Which, again, I actually just screened it yesterday for my students. I never get tired of watching it. I think it's just a fantastic movie. And Kevin Macdonald has Black Sea coming out, and this stars Jude Law as a former submarine officer for the British Navy who's essentially drummed out of a civilian job, and so he finds out about a a sunken German sub that's stocked with gold. So he assembles kind of this ragtag group, and they put together a pretty terrible Russian submarine to go down to the depths and get the treasure from this sunken ship, which is like a World War II era ship.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of a treasure of Sierra Madre type thing. It's an interesting experience. I wouldn't say I was over the moon about it, but I thought that there was a lot that worked really well. I think it's a great character piece.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a cool plot. Like I can't think of another movie necessarily like that in recent memory. Like it sounds different.
It does some interesting stuff, but it definitely harkens to, kind of the cliche thing is it's similar to, like, the boat or whatever. But it reminded me a lot of The Perfect Storm, the Wolfgang Petersen movie, in that you have these characters who are caught up in circumstances that aren't entirely in their control, and there's kind of a hubris element involved. And you watch these characters sort of being buffeted by nature, right?
Right.
It's a great performance by Jude Law. I think one of his best. He's got this great thick Scottish brogue, and he really like beefed up. And I mean, you can tell he had a lot of fun transforming himself for this character.
That's cool.
But I had a chance to talk with Kevin Macdonald, and like I said, I started things off right up top by telling him what a big fan I am of State of Play, and he had some interesting comments about that. So let's go ahead and play my conversation with Kevin Macdonald. So right up top, I want to say that I'm a huge fan of State of Play. This is a movie that I screen in my classes, and I have been screening for the past 6 years.
Well, that's very good, because I think that movie didn't quite get the reception I would have liked for it, because people didn't really understand I don't know, they didn't understand. It's just like what to me seemed like such an important issue. I think to other people didn't feel like an important issue, which was the death of the newspaper and the death of good reporting. Well,
that's exactly the context in which I show it, because I think it's almost like an artifact. I feel like 10 years from now, or even sooner potentially, we could look at it and be like, this is a little, it's a memorial for the way newspapers used to be.
Well, exactly. But it was funny, because at the time I thought, it was such an important issue and that people would really talk about that when it was released and stuff, but nobody did. And I was surprised by that, because I thought, the people who should talk about it are journalists, and they're the ones reviewing it and talking about it. It's sort of like it didn't really catch on. Maybe it was just the wrong movie for the wrong time.
Well, I'm certainly, I've been a one-man committee trying to get the word out about it.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It's always nice when your orphaned children find a parent somewhere.
That's a good metaphor for it, absolutely. Now, in terms of Black Sea, obviously this is slightly different from State of Play, but
very different, yeah.
I see some similarities in that it is an ensemble piece, and what struck me really
also kind of there's a sort of a similarity, but this might be stretching it in that it's about obsession.
Oh, sure.
About somebody who does his job really, really well and who may not have a job for that much longer. And in a way, whose job gets in the way of him having an ordinary life. I think with the Russell Crowe's character and Jude Law's character, that's central to this is the idea that a lot of people, and particularly men, can take their jobs so seriously, and the jobs take over their lives. And when they don't have a job anymore, they lose their sense of self and self-respect, and they can, feel very angry about that and very resentful, and this sort of, I guess it's the 99% versus the 1% kind of feeling sort of ties into that as well,
Sure.
Feeling like they're being ripped off by the system and that they're suffering, and the 1% seems to be getting richer and richer and everybody else isn't. So, that there's some relationship there.
Well, and what you've just described is really the heavy emotional and sort of thematic undercurrent of this story. And I guess my question is...
we tried to sort of, I guess, weight what is otherwise, hopefully an entertaining thriller with something that, with some thematic undercurrents that, are there if you want to, think about them or go in that direction as you're watching it. You can, but I think also, I hope that people will watch and appreciate it just as a piece of entertainment, as a kind of thrill ride.
Right. Well, and I mean, what were the roots of the story in that sense? Did you go in kind of wanting to do kind of a Treasure of Sierra Madre type thing, or was it?
Yeah, that was kind of the idea from the beginning. It was inspired by this Russian submarine accident that happened in the year 2000, the Kursk disaster, where some submariners ended up in the bottom of the sea, in the Barents Sea in Russia, and they couldn't be rescued even though they were only 100 meters down. And they slowly asphyxiated and died, and I thought, that's a horrible way to go, but an interesting scenario for a movie. You've got a bunch of people stuck in the bottom of the sea, and what happens to them? What are they doing there? And I thought, well, maybe they're looking for treasure, and maybe then this idea came along of, the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. What happens if you made a version of the Treasure of the Sierra Madre on a submarine? That was kind of the pitch that I took to the writer Dennis Kelly, who at that time was best known as a playwright. He's now written a musical, Matilda, which he won a Tony for last year, and he's written this very interesting series, Utopia. Which
he's kind of blown up, yeah.
Yeah, dark and fascinating conspiracy kind of thriller series.
Well, and I mean, I read in a previous note that you made a conscious choice that this would not be a military sub.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought that was one of the things we could do differently. I guess when you do a genre film like this, you're torn in two directions. One, you have to be to some degree faithful to the genre. There are certain things that one wants to have in a submarine movie, but also at the same time you want to go the other way, which is to do things differently. And one of the things that's never really been done, to my knowledge, is a kind of non-naval, a non-military submarine film.
Right.
And I like the idea that that obviously is only partially true, because these guys are ex-Navy. They've all been in the Navy, but now they're on Civvy Street and not particularly thriving on Civvy Street.
Right. Well, and did you have concerns insofar as it's a pretty big ensemble. Obviously, Jude Law is head of the ensemble, but did you worry about us, getting enough of a connection with the characters, especially like the Russian characters who we don't even get to share the language?
Yes, no, I mean, obviously, in an ensemble, that is always a risk, especially one as big as this. But I figured that you get in touch with hopefully a few of them, but that actually I kind of like the sort of movies that inspired this, things like Wages of Fear and Sorcerer, its remake that was done by William Friedkin.
Right.
Those sort of movies, you discover a character through action, and you observe people, and you're not told a lot about who they are. You have to just sort of imagine, like in life, you piece together their stories. And I kind of like the idea of it being like that it's not sort of given to you on a plate. That you see people and you get little clues as to who they are, but you don't know who they are, except perhaps Jude. As you gradually go through the film, you get a clearer and clearer idea of who he is and what motivates him.
Well, and I was wondering if you could talk about that. What was your process like as far as getting Jude Law involved and also constructing the character with him?
Well, Jude was obviously not an obvious person to have in the role. He's not the first person you'd think of as a authoritative, blue-collar, tough-working guy.
Right.
That's the opposite of a description of Jude Law, you would think. But, I didn't have anyone in mind for the role, and Jude happened to read it. We share an agent in L.A., and he happened to read it and got in touch and said he liked it. And I thought, well, this is one thing I've learned in my career. It's, if somebody's interested, they may well have something in them that really will work for this, and you shouldn't discount anyone. So I went to see him, and we started talking about it, and I realized that he was very, very serious about wanting to do a kind of transformative performance, and that's very exciting. When you meet an actor who really wants to change themselves and throw themselves into a part completely. So, we met a few more times, and then I cast him, and then we worked together on it for several months, and he worked with a voice coach to lower his voice and to learn this very difficult Aberdeen Scottish accent. He did weights, particular weights to build up his upper body, particularly his forearms, so he looked more kind of sailory. He changed his posture, he shaved his head. he went on a real submarine for 5 days with the Royal Navy. The only one of us who did that. He went down underwater for 5 days. So he really threw himself into it. And I think he gives a performance unlike anything he's ever done before. And I think he really pulls it off. So I'm thrilled with it.
Yeah, I agree. I remember reading a quote from somebody a while ago, but it's always something I've remembered that said that eventually all leading men get to become character actors.
I think I hadn't heard that, but that's very interesting. I mean, I was talking to someone else earlier about what marine films I'd seen and liked that influenced this, and one of them that I really like is Run Silent, Run Deep.
Right.
That movie has Burt Lancaster and Clark Gable, and it's to me one of the great Clark Gable performances because it's so different. It's a bit like what Jude does. It's so different than the leading man, sort of matinee idol that you expect Clark Gable to be. He plays this quite dark, obsessive, embittered kind of Captain Ahab figure.
Yeah.
And he's kind of lost his looks a bit, and it's really a strong performance, and I think that's similar to what Jude is doing. And I think that's the thing. As you get older, you have to, I think, learn your craft better and be more interested in just the acting because you're not going to get by on your looks anymore.
Right.
And I think that, although having said that, I think if you look back on Jude's career, you can see that there's a real pattern of him doing kind of really interesting character parts, whether it be in Ripley or whether it be in playing the assassin in Road to Perdition or whether it be Karenin in Anna Karenina. Well, there's a few others I can't remember, but he's done this handful of kind of interesting character parts, and he's always been really, really good at them.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, and I think in terms of what he did here, it felt very ego-free for me.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I love working with him is that he is ego-free. It's like working in theater. In theater the actors are much more, they're there to work and
right.
to explore the character and to really act. And that's what Jude is like. He's kind of like, you can say anything to him. You can say, you sound like a sissy. You need to lower your voice. You can say that. The way you're holding your arms, it's not going to work. It is not that sense because in film sets normally, especially with the stars, there's all those egos going around and all that sense of you can't really say anything too negative.
Sure.
You have to go about it in a very subtle way. With Jude, it just felt like we were just working together. Let's work together and try and make this good.
Sure. Well, and just expanding on what you just said, in a broader term, I would love to get your insight into the difference between, making sort of a more traditional studio film versus something that's more independent and sort of the challenges of each and the differences there.
Well, obviously, I've only really made one studio movie, which was State of Play.
Yeah.
In a funny way, that was not representative at all because it's a funny example of, because it's based on this British TV series.
Yeah, which is a great show, by the way.
Very good. But the British TV series is pure entertainment.
Sure.
Whereas the Hollywood movie, I think, actually has something to say. It's about journalism, and so that's the oddity. It's not. It's probably a more socially engaged work, the movie, than the TV show, and that's that's not what you expect of Hollywood. But having said that, when I worked on this movie, we had a very low budget, but because we had Jude, I didn't have pressure to put other stars into it.
Oh.
I'm sure the studio wish I had now, but I was able to cast people who were right for the role. I was able to cast just on, I can get the best character actors who are going to look the part and act the part and be fantastic to work with, and that's what I did. And I really enjoyed that. And I think, for me, one of the pleasures of this movie is just seeing these different character actors doing their little turns and bringing these different characters to life in a way that's very subtle and often quite, Dennis Kelly hasn't given them kind of big character revealing moments all the time, but, there's those little dollops where you're understanding who they are and what drives them.
Right. Well, and just for my last question, in big picture terms, the submarine genre is very much a thing that people keep going back to. It's It's sort of an evergreen. And what have you learned about the submarine genre's appeal?
Well, I think the submarine genre and the space movie are very similar.
Right.
Interstellar is a kind of way in a submarine movie in some ways. And I think that in the same way Alien is very like a submarine movie, I think that it's the idea of being in a vessel which is your ark. Without that vessel, you are going to die. The environment is so unfriendly. And you are somewhere where you wouldn't survive without that vessel. So the vessel and its safety becomes of absolute importance. And the claustrophobia of that environment and the worry that you have as a crew member of what happens if the captain goes crazy, what happens if he makes the wrong decision, are we all going to die, that builds up a sense of psychological intensity and concentration in these movies, which means that you see both the best and the worst of human nature occurring in them, I think, just because of the compression of psychology in the submarine, just the space, the claustrophobia of the space, and the sense that these, the precariousness of life in that environment.
All right.
Cool. Very cool.
So Black Sea opens wide on the 30th of January, so it should just a few days after this episode comes out. So do check that out. And again, in case I haven't made it quite clear, watch State of Play. It's a really, really friggin' good movie. And
I want to tack something on here real quick. Kind of an interesting thing that I wasn't even going to bring up, but now that you say this about the sunken German sub and all that, I was talking to a friend of mine at work today, and she was out yesterday because she was at a funeral, and I was telling her, I'm really sorry about that, and she said that she was going to a funeral for a distant relative, and what he did was he was in World War II, and he used to fly planes over the East Coast watching for Japanese submarines to make sure they didn't invade the U.S. from the east. And that is the plot of 1941, which I just recently watched.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like a month or two ago, and I read up on it because it's kind of an interesting film to me, for geek reasons, because it's supposed to be Spielberg's one of his few flops, and so it's such a silly and weird movie about the U.S. going crazy and falling all over themselves because they think the Japanese are going to attack, and then I read up, and Bob Gale, who wrote it, said that it's based on true story, and they actually had gunners on front lawns on houses in Maine, and all sorts of crazy stuff like this, and it was just so fascinating. And I didn't tell her this because I wanted to respect, what she had just gone through. But I was like, wow, that's so crazy. Like, it's just to me, it's like this weird movie, and you hear about this sort of weird little artifact about World War II that people don't talk about. But to know that's kind of interesting that he was one of those people who was involved with that, like flying over, the coast of the U.S., making sure that there were no secret subs about to spring up on us. So I found that was pretty fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I love that you were able to weave that in to this kind of. I think that says something about the elastic nature of our show.
I hope so.
That
I don't know if anyone cares, but I found it interesting.
Well, you know what? It's our show. Damn it.
Yeah. Damn it.
So okay, so I think this is a good place to pivot into headlines, and right up top, just as American Sniper is just doing gangbusters at the box office, we have Johnny Depp doing pretty much the exact opposite.
What is the opposite of gangbusters?
Yeah, I guess single. Not busters. I don't know. What's the opposite of busting something? Not busting, right?
Putting back togethers.
Single putting back together. Yeah, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah.
But now I saw a poster for Mordecai, which is the new Johnny Depp star. It's directed by David Koepp, and I saw it a few months ago in the theater, and it's just his big mug with this handlebar mustache, and it says Johnny Depp is Mordecai. And I said, is he just daring people at this point to I mean, you know what I mean? Because it was the most unappealing poster I had ever seen. And I just couldn't understand it. And so predictably it came out and it made, I think, like $6 million or something like that, against a $60 million budget. $60 million is what this disaster cost.
It almost did Black Hat money.
Black Hat, by the way, opened out of the top 10. That's how badly Black Hat did.
Yeah, really? You know, it did worse than MacGruber.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So it didn't even make MacGruber money.
Didn't even make MacGruber bucks.
That's embarrassing.
Black Hat. Anyway, back to Mordecai.
Yeah, Black Hat was terrible too. By the way, we talked about it in the last episode. Go listen if you haven't. But so this is now being called Johnny Depp's 5th flop in a row.
Wow.
Right. So I think if we do the math here, let's see. There's Mordecai. There's
Transcendence.
the Transcendence, which was awful. Lone Ranger, which I think the only person that liked, and Dark Shadows.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I feel like we're missing something.
Yeah,
here.
something before that, but something else where he's wearing white face paint.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So here's my question. Now, actually, it's not even a question. It's a comment which I'd love to get your thoughts on. It's being said, oh my gosh, he needs to do a comeback and he needs to, get his career in check or whatever. And I would argue that, you know what, Johnny Depp never stopped being Johnny Depp.
Totally. I completely agree with you.
Right? If you look at the arc of his career, he has been absolutely consistent in the type of projects that he chooses. It's just there's this brief moment where suddenly people thought that there was gold in them Dar Hills.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh totally. I mean he did the Pirates movies and then everybody and their grandmother likes him. So then it's like, oh well then what most actors would that's what most actors strive toward is like being in like some huge movie where everyone all of a sudden knows you and then you become the A-list summer movie guy. You know what I mean? Like and that's Johnny Depp has never had any interest in that. And he just keeps making whatever the hell he wants to make. And I don't really have an interest in seeing Mordecai, but like as I saw people like panning it or making fun of it and comments and that whatever, I was like, whatever. Looks like he's having fun. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure he had a blast making that movie. Like he seems to like playing these like really goofy, quirky characters. So it's like Johnny Depp don't care. You know what I mean?
So why should you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the movie does look absolutely terrible. I'm actually I'm pulling this up now just because I'm mildly curious what its Rotten Tomatoes score is. And at present, Mordecai is at a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes.
12%. Yeah.
And I was wrong actually. It did not make $6 million. It made $4.2 million.
Ooh.
So
that's Black Hat money. But no, but something I thought was interesting though, and again, I don't know anything about this except for like a trailer or something, but it just looked kind of like he was going for some sort of like old school Peter Sellers sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, it made me think, and again, I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to whether or not it is any good, but it made me wonder if people really appreciate these old 60s slapsticky sort of wacky character movies, and even if this one was like that and it wasn't even that bad, is it just because people don't like that sort of humor anymore and they see it as corny unless it looks like it was shot in Technicolor and
well, I mean, it's
1960?
I mean, you talk about Peter Sellers. It's like, is there? Maybe this is blasphemous. I don't know, but I feel like the Pink Panther movies are beloved by a lot of people who've never seen them.
That's funny.
You know what I mean? Because
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Maybe this is blasphemy, but I don't think they're very good.
I have not seen one since I was a kid, so I have no idea. But
I'd be curious. And this is not in any way to down Peter Sellers as a talent, because I think he is. But I think even by the end of those movies, he was not particularly interested. And it tells you something that he died, and they found a way to basically Weekend at Bernie's him into the movie. Because they made two more of these things after he died.
With him in it?
Well, one of them was composed, like his role in it was entirely outtakes from other movies.
No way! I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's called Curse of the Pink Panther, I think. And let me. I can just look that up. But it's sort of like the clip show version of the Pink Panther movies.
So they just like saw what they had and then they made a plot around it and.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not Curse of the Pink Panther because the Curse of the Pink Panther is actually the last one of those original movies, and it stars Ted Wass, who is a COD graduate actually, randomly.
Get out of here.
So, but you might know him as the dad on Blossom.
What?
Yeah.
He was in a Pink Panther movie?
Yeah, he starred in the last Pink Panther movie, like from those. He went to Glenbard West, so he's like local from our area.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. All right.
So yeah, Curse of the Pink Panther was like the last one, but before that one, I think it was called Trail of the Pink Panther, and that one it's like Inspector Clouseau is missing, and so yeah, the Trail of the Pink Panther, and it basically they just weave in outtakes and like footage from other movies. It's like a clip show version of the Pink Panther movies. So I mean this is like maybe a year after Peter Sellers died.
Yeah.
It's a little creepy, a little bit.
A little crass.
A bit. You know what I mean? So my point is, I feel like those movies are more beloved for what they represent than what they are.
All right.
I think that's.
I'm not in the San Francisco critics circle, so I don't. I'm just gonna. I don't know. I'll leave it
Take it with the weight of authority that comes with my words. We need to add like some basso profundo into what I'm saying so that everything sounds echoey. How dare you question me? But okay, so Mordecai did not do so well, which calls into question Johnny Depp's sort of superstar bona fides. One actor who now is suddenly brandishing all kinds of superstar bona fides is Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
Okay, so Chris Pratt goes from being pudgy Parks and Rec guy to biggest draw in the world thanks to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Right, and we can all agree he did a heck of a great job as Star-Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And we can agree he looks like he's going to do a good job in Jurassic World.
Yes.
So naturally, all these studios now are trying to nail him down to franchises, and word drops today that Disney wants Chris Pratt to reboot Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Right? Now, actually, before you say anything, worth pointing out the episode that I was just telling you about, how I was listening to an older episode. That same episode, we talked about what is going to be the future of Indiana Jones. That same episode. So exactly a year ago, we talked about it, and now here we are talking once again.
What are we doing with our lives?
I know.
A year later. No, but is that
Same
when they were talking about Bradley Cooper? Remember that was the rumor for a while?
It was the rumor for a while. I don't know if that was the episode we talked about it, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
So the plan then by Disney would be to reboot the Indiana Jones series, or if not reboot, just go back to a younger Indiana Jones model, replace Harrison Ford, and have Chris Pratt as the lead role.
Mm-hmm.
As of now, discussions are very preliminary, but obviously if this is out there in the ether, this was on Deadline, I think that broke it, obviously it's being talked about at some high levels.
Right.
Now I consider myself a fairly big fan of the Indiana Jones franchise. I think you and I are on this are matched. We're equal.
I would agree with that.
In that regard. So I am very curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay. With age comes wisdom and a whole new perspective on things. I think
theory.
If you had asked me years ago about recasting Indiana Jones, I would have been like, are you out of your friggin' mind? Like, you can't do that. Like, you just can't.
Yeah.
But as I get older and I realize that the things that you can't do are going to happen anyway, because money, you know what I mean? Indiana Jones the property has been purchased by Disney. There will be a reboot of Indiana Jones. That's happening. Yeah. So, if that's going to happen, you have to cast someone who is rugged, but kind of a klutz, but like still really cool and like a ladies' man, and like that's a really tough role to fill. You know what I mean? Like Harrison Ford, he is Indiana Jones. So, do I feel like Chris Pratt could do it? Yeah, I do actually. I don't think anybody's ideal, but like I said, it's gonna happen. So I think he's a totally suitable guy to do that. And there's that Photoshop picture that was going around
oh my gosh,
today.
That was great.
It looks great. He looks
Yeah.
really good, and
Yeah.
like I think he's got that smirk, which gives him that sort of sense of humor. He'd be funny because that's what I loved about Indiana Jones, and I didn't even realize it until I got older because I just always thought he was cool when I was a kid. But I love that he's like a scrappy dude. Like he has to cheat in a fight. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't he doesn't. They make a point of that at the beginning of Raiders. Is like when he's getting away or trying to get out from all the booby traps, he jumps for the cliff and he doesn't make it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's not super cool. Like he like grabs the rope and then it falls. You know what I mean? Like so I think he's got that going on, but I think he is a handsome guy and he's like totally made himself all cut now and like ladies man whatever. Like I feel like he can fill all those check boxes for that. If you're gonna do it, I feel like he makes a lot of sense. So what do you think?
If he were to sign on, I would have no problem with it. That being said, I do have some trouble seeing Chris Pratt as I think he's got the rugged action hero part down, but I have some trouble seeing him as the button-down professor.
Oh, good point. Good point.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like picture Chris Pratt dressed like Indy when he's giving lectures.
That's a great point. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Like that, because reflexive, we're like, oh yeah. Again, that picture, and just Google, folks, just Google Chris Pratt Indiana Jones, in their image search, it'll come right up. You're like, oh my gosh, the hat and it looks fantastic. But there's this other side of Indy's persona that's just as important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my own and again, this is not where I'm like, oh my gosh, just flip the table over, forget it. I'd be down for it because I like Chris Pratt, but I do wonder about that,
Interesting, because Bradley Cooper, I remember I think we were both on board with that one too, and I still am. Like I can kind of.
I can see Bradley Cooper doing
As
the professor side.
Yeah. Totally. Like the whole, especially that speech that he gives in Raiders to those two guys, like about the Ark and pulling out the books and all that stuff. Yeah, I can see Bradley Cooper doing that.
I mean, I got to be honest. If I had to pick, I would actually probably go with Bradley Cooper over Chris Pratt.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. Honestly, I don't know. I wish I could combine them in some ways.
We need like a transporter accident to morph them. Well, and I'll tell you why. The other thing about this is I feel like Bradley Cooper would be more likely to bring a very distinct version of Indiana Jones, because it's almost like that's what you need. You know what I mean? You need an actor who plays the character but does it in a different way.
Right.
Than Harrison Ford, who is Indiana Jones. I think we talked about this before. Like for us, for people of our generation, it'll be like those people who never got over Sean Connery leaving James Bond.
Right. Like Daniel Craig, he's a pretty good Bond, but like Sean Connery is Bond.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it'll always be that, And I think we talked about it before too, where it's like it would have been nice to see Harrison Ford get like one more time to kind of fix the last one.
Yeah, and rewatching a good chunk of it recently on Sci-Fi Network or something like that, it's like, yeah, like he's old. Like I don't mean that. It sounds really cruel, actually, the way I just said that. But I mean, like, there's a lot of things I don't like about that movie, but I never focus on his age. But I mean, that's just the facts. He's an older guy, and he can't get around, like he can't jump from truck to truck so much anymore. Yeah. And so, I don't know. There was part of me that wanted another one, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe a passing of the torch film, but I don't know.
Well, it's weird, right? Because and I definitely feel like this is something we've talked about before, but it's like, do you want it to be a story that is done, or do you want it to be a character that continues on?
Yeah. Well, at this point, a character that continues on, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can do a good job with it, I would love to see new, because up until now it's been Steven Spielberg's thing. I would love to see it now be like, let's see, the Gareth Edwards Indy movie. Let's see the I'm just like naming Star Wars directors, like the Rian Johnson Indy movie. You know what I mean? But like, I think I would love to see that.
Yeah, that's true, man. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I mean, you likely eventually you're not going to have, and I mean just because of his interest, probably John Williams. You're not going to have John Williams. You're not going to have Steven Spielberg. Yeah, I mean, man, I didn't even think about that. I'm just thinking so much about the character, but yeah, Steven Spielberg. I mean, his style and
He's just as important a character, arguably.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, you know, these franchises they need to keep going. I mean, obviously, the Ghostbusters reboot has been kicking around for a while, and we've talked about it a few times. Here now, Paul Feig had signed on to direct, and he said, "I'm going to reboot the whole thing, and I'm going to do it with all female Ghostbusters."
Mm-hmm.
That was his high level. That was like the elevator pitch. So that eventuality has now come true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been announced that the cast will be Melissa McCarthy, who I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. I am shocked that Melissa McCarthy made it into this movie. Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones from SNL, and Kate McKinnon from SNL.
There's a weird noise in the background. I was exploring. Sorry about that. Anyway, no surprises with Melissa McCarthy.
Or
I think a pleasant surprise for Kristen Wiig, because it seems like he's probably wanted her back for a lot of things, but I think she's gone her own little indie route.
Sure.
You know?
And now here, you know, I hate being this guy, but I am actively apathetic about this movie.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, again, we've talked about this. Like, Ghostbusters is Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, you know, brain fart. There's a really weird noise happening in my background. I have my half of me is like, what is running that I should turn off or something?
It'd be funny if there's like an animal inside.
Yeah, no. Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson. I mean, like that. The reason you like Ghostbusters is because of their sensibility. So it's like when you make, you know, Ghostbusters the title with these 4 women, you know, who are all talented in their own right, but it's like, well, I don't know what that is.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, remains to be seen. And it's interesting that Paul Feig has talked about wanting to make it really scary. You know, whereas I'd argue the first 2 aren't. Yeah.
I mean, well, it's weird.
They are for kids, but...
I mean, well, I think they're for a general audience, but I think the first 2, or at least, you know, maybe not even so much the second one, but certainly the first one we can agree works because it plays straight within its world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so the humor is not like by breaking the fourth wall.
Right.
But for me, this is not even about like, oh, Paul Feig, who is not a hack. He's a very good director.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's very funny. I have a visceral dislike of how mercenary this is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where it's like no matter what, Sony is bound and determined to get this thing back, no matter what.
Right.
Regardless of whether they know what makes it work or not. And at this point, I mean, Dan Aykroyd is going to be full steam ahead on this because he's got a money motive, you know?
Sure.
Because he's going to cash out whether he's in it or not. Same with Ivan Reitman and I mean, I guess the Ramis estate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like all those guys. But it's like, to me, it's like you said, it is those actors as those characters.
Yeah.
And I actually wonder if I would be less apathetic towards this if they recast the original roles. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, here's X as Peter Venkman, you know?
I don't know. I really want to hear you actually answer that. And what if they made this a movie that took place in that universe, whereas they're just completely rebooting this as if the first 2 movies never happened? What if this movie took place in that universe, you know, 20, 30 years later?
Yeah. Would I prefer that? I think I would.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's weird actually because on the one hand, what this allows, if you're a fan of the original films and sort of that universe, you can just completely ignore this entirely. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas if this was a continuation, then you somehow, if it's terrible, you have to acknowledge it somehow.
Okay. Yeah, good point.
So I don't know, to be honest. Like for me, it's very easy for me to be like, you know what, whatever. I mean, I'm probably gonna watch it anyway because I'll probably write a review. But you know, like it's almost like my Ghostbusters is what it is, and I'll never have that experience again.
Mm-hmm.
So fine, let another generation have it. But there's a part of me that's kind of like there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems very gimmicky to be like, oh, we're doing like the all-female Ghostbusters, and this is not even about whether women can be funny or whatever. It's not about that, but there is something that seems gimmicky to me about that.
Sure.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Like I always wonder with these things, and it's starting to become a trend where they remake these movies, and it's like, oh, like with RoboCop. Like, think about before RoboCop came out. They're like, okay, Jose Padilla, right? I think it was who did it. It's like, he's made some interesting movies. Oh, all right. Well, he might bring this interesting sensibility, and then Michael Keaton's in it. Oh, I love Michael Keaton. I'm glad he's like doing movies again. He might bring this interesting thing in the suit. I don't know. I can kind of see this. Like, you put all this thought, like maybe this will work, and then now here we are, like a year later, and we're not thinking of that RoboCop. No one is thinking of that RoboCop. No one will ever think of that RoboCop.
That's so true.
You know what I mean? So it's like. This is albeit a little bit of a bigger scale, I think.
Yeah.
But at the same time, will anyone really couple this movie on the shelf with those Ghostbusters films? I don't know. Maybe, but who knows? I have no idea.
I mean, are you looking forward to it?
There's a lot of curiosity, and like I want it to be cool because I like the comedy ghost action thing, but I can't say that I'm like writing it on the calendar.
Right. No, I'll tell you one thing. One movie that as soon as it's announced, I will write it on the calendar is the GoBots movie.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I saw this on the outline. And I know nothing about GoBots. I remember them, but that's about it.
So this is actually my chance to vent about like how terrible my childhood was, because the truth of it is that many children have very fond, very painful memories about GoBots, because GoBots. Well, I'll tell you, because GoBots are the cheap alternative that you ended up getting whenever you asked for a Transformer.
So they're not related? I wondered if they're related.
So GoBots was a toy line from I want to say Tonka, I think.
Oh.
And it actually preceded Transformers, but Transformers was like 5,000 times cooler.
Yeah.
Right. So inevitably, what ended up happening is that you had these amazing Transformers with metal parts, and they were very elaborate and awesome. And then you had GoBots that were like two pieces of plastic that you turned this way, and it turns into a piss poor robot.
Okay.
So my experience, and I would assume the experiences of many people, would be, oh, I want Optimus Prime, and then the gift time comes around, and you have Leader One, who was like the GoBot equivalent of Optimus Prime, except he sucked.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's weird because it's like low rent Transformers in every way, like because there was like the GoBots cartoon show, but it was terrible, and I mean it's like this continuing thing. So the story here goes that Hasbro, which of course created the Transformers toy line, they bought out Tonka in like the 90s.
Okay.
So they actually own GoBots. So they're now going to turn GoBots into a movie the way they turned Transformers into a movie.
Yeah.
Which makes not any kind of sense to me at all.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you've already sort of cornered the robot, talking robot.
The sizable talking robot market.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't... If I were funding this movie, I'd be like, here's $70 million. You know what I mean?
Which sounds like $65 million too much.
Yeah. Like, this is a $200 million movie. I'd be like, yeah, here's 70.
So this is a thing.
We make that back in foreign acquisition,
I have to give Hasbro a lot of props because they're trying to exploit all of their properties. I mean, they had the Ouija movie that came out like a few months ago.
Wait,
right? And Ouija, like Ouija board?
Is that how you say it?
How do you say it?
Ouija? Ouija board?
No, it's Ouija.
Ouija?
Yeah, it's Ouija.
Huh. What are the origins of that word? What is that? What language?
Oh, hold on. I'm going to look this up.
I have no idea. My whole life I've heard it pronounced a Ouija board.
All right, here we go. I'm at dictionary.com, and it is pronounced. Hold on.
Is it going to be that robot voice?
No, I should. Let's see if I can play it. Hold on. Ouija. Yeah, I was right.
Huh.
Oh no, actually no. Hold on. It's both. It's Ouija or often Ouija.
Interesting.
So
tomato, my friend.
I know. I guess so. But regardless, it's a trademark that's owned by Hasbro. So that movie is from them. But they also have. Sorry, have we addressed the great Ouija conundrum?
Maybe we should ask the board.
You are both right.
No. Yeah.
But they also have a movie coming up, which is Gem and the Holograms. If you remember Gem.
Right.
So Hasbro is just doing everything it can to max out all of its 80s IP. Basically.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, good for them. But a last bit of news while we talk about franchises that they're trying to bring back is Independence Day 2.
Oh man, I can't wait! I'm so excited to see Will Smith back in action, bringing this franchise back to where the forefront where it belongs, middle of summer.
Well, they gave Will Smith the script. they gave Will Smith the script, and he responded by saying, "Oh hell no."
Oh.
So he
Will Smith.
He will not be in it. Sad to say.
Does that? Real quick, okay. I know we're gonna get this, but no Will Smith in Independence Day 4 too. Do you care?
Do I? Well,
is Independence Day him and Jeff Goldblum? Does that? Can you have Independence Day without Will Smith?
I mean, I would argue we shouldn't have Independence Day 2 with Will Smith either. I would argue we shouldn't have Independence Day 2. That's my perspective.
There's that.
There is that.
Okay.
But that's okay. So Will Smith has tagged out. They've still got Jeff Goldblum on board. They've still got Bill Pullman on board, and to nail down the cast, they're turning to the charisma magnet that is Liam Hemsworth.
Oh man, yeah.
I read that and I was like, seriously?
Yeah, I don't get that one at all. No offense to the guy, but yeah, I mean he's Hunger Games. He's I don't. Yeah, he's just very not very captivating. You know what I mean?
I think that Liam's older brother Chris is legitimately charismatic.
Yeah.
And even he could not open that disaster that was Black Hat.
Yeah, right.
So the idea that they're like, Liam Hemsworth, he's our guy, that makes no sense to me.
It's fascinating sometimes the people that Hollywood tries to make happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta wonder. You gotta wonder what sort of seedy, disgusting stuff is happening. It's like, why do these people just keep popping up? You know what I mean?
Why this person? Well, and for a while, I think you and I talked about who would you replace him with? Maybe somebody like Channing Tatum. I could actually see it happening with Channing Tatum.
Yeah, for sure.
By the way, this is a little tangent, but they just announced Channing Tatum is going to be anchoring the Gambit movie. Did you see this?
Yeah.
So 2016, we're going to have 3 X-Men movies. We got the Deadpool one. We talked about that before with Ryan Reynolds. We got X-Men Apocalypse and Gambit starring Channing Tatum. Now here's the thing about this. I was thinking about this. I was like, I feel like he kind of accidentally backed into starring in that movie.
What do you mean?
Well, I feel like it's one of these things where he was doing these press junkets, and people are like, hey, would you ever want to play a superhero? Yeah, because that's kind of the standard question. And he's thinking of the 3 superheroes that he remembers from when he's a kid. And he's like, hey, Gambit would be cool, I guess, because he probably watched the X-Men cartoon,
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, Fox has him signed to a contract, and he's like, oh, crap, what did I just do,
Seriously, yeah. And he's like, it's Marvel, right? Yeah, but not the one you're thinking of. Oh.
Not Marvel.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so while we talk about not Marvel, I mean, this is obviously a big story for today. And actually, one of the people who is also being talked about as starring in Independence Day 2 is Michael B. Jordan, who is starring in a non-Marvel movie, which is Fantastic Four, which we have. I think we've made it a thing over the past year or so to really poke fun at the existence of this reboot that's happening, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I poke fun. I ponder why. That's kind of for me.
All right, fair enough. Fine. Point is, see, I love how you always do this. This is like you distance yourself from like the emotions, and so I'm like the one that's like angry.
No, it's not angry. I just really, I just feel like, again, I'm not familiar with the comic. I only know it really from the movies, if I'm being honest. Yeah. But it's just, I mean, when we have this like superhero saturation going on, the only way you're gonna get me is to do something different, you know, and have like characters that like, I don't know, something grabby, and like these characters, it just feels like, all right, you know what I mean? Like it feels like it's not adding anything different or distinct. So to me, it just feels like, well, this is all we got, you know, if you're Fox, and so it's like, well, we got to do our damnedest with this.
Well, this movie is due out in August, and it's been radio silence for a while now. There have been no production stills, no nothing, no footage at all, and it became kind of noticeable. The silence became noticeable, I would say, right? That's fair, right? So early this morning, the first trailer for Fantastic Four dropped. So first, let's play some of the audio from that.
Human beings have an immeasurable desire to discover. But with every new discovery, there is risk. There is sacrifice. And there are consequences.
Okay, so Brian, you and I have not talked about this trailer at all.
No.
I am genuinely curious. Has this 2 minutes moved the needle for you?
Kind of. Actually, that looked kind of cool.
I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, no, again, it almost feels like, why are you even talking on a movie podcast if you're saying you're burned out on superhero movies, because that's basically all there is now in movie-wise. But I just am. Like, I want to continue seeing superhero movies, but I don't want to keep seeing the same movie over and over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like this obviously looks like an origin story, but I don't know, it just had a different feel to it. So I'm like, okay, like that's what I want. I want to see something different. And I thought this had like an interesting, it had like a serious tone, but like a not overly serious. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of like what they were spitting there. Like I even noticed the lighting, which I never think about that. You know what I mean? Like I noticed the lighting. It had this real naturalistic look.
I really liked the production design.
Yeah, exactly.
There was something kind of, it's weird actually. See, so here's where I'm at, right? This is what I wrote on my blog. I was like, the Fantastic Four movie promises a really interesting movie about characters I don't recognize.
Right.
So this is my dilemma, right? Because as a fan of the characters in the comic, I don't see the Fantastic Four that I know. So there is that. Like, we have to acknowledge that. Right. On the other hand, it's extremely jarring to compare this to the previous movies.
Right.
Just in terms of the aesthetic, because there was something so flat and like almost sitcom-y.
Yes.
About those movies. You know what I mean? And you think about like. It's weird, right? Because if this is my honest opinion, I feel like, the X-Men movies notwithstanding, I think Fox was basically content to crank out whatever they could based on the Marvel movies that they had licensed, because they were like, well, X number of people are going to show up anyway.
Right.
So we don't need to put effort into it, right? And so what we see here, and they got Josh Trank who's directing, he did Chronicle, which I really liked. And again, there's an aesthetic that he said in interviews he wanted it to evoke Cronenberg and stuff like that. And you definitely get that sense, at least just from what we see here. But the idea of letting a director kind of be true to himself. I feel like it's coming from a reactive position of having to respond to Marvel Studios.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does that make sense?
Totally.
Like the version that we got before was like, hey, whatever, we've got the rights, we can do. And now it's like, oh crap, we need to do something that, like, we need to be in the game.
Right.
So,
and getting a young, interesting filmmaker and seeing that this movie actually looks like his movie.
Yeah,
that feels like the right direction.
Yeah. So where I'm at right now, I'm torn because I can't help but look at something like this and being like, ugh, if only Marvel had this back.
Right.
Because then we'd be getting a truer version of this property that would also be good.
Right.
So as it stands, it's like, well, as of now, compared to where I was at 24 hours ago, I'm 100% more interested because I was at dead zero.
Right.
And now I'm like, oh, okay, I'll watch it. But the part that's difficult for me is this looks nothing like the characters I love.
Right.
Which is tough. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know you really liked Miles Teller in Whiplash, right?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen Whiplash yet, but I'm partially like, well, Brian said he was really good in that, so I'm kind of like, well, they seem to have cast well,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they all seem like the cast seems like capable people.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I was gonna talk about Liam Hemsworth again.
Please do.
No, I'm just saying there's no Liam Hemsworth. So like no people of the moment that someone's trying to make happen. You know what I mean? Like they cast well, it seems.
Well, what was that movie Liam Hemsworth was in with Harrison Ford? You know what I'm talking about? Paranoia.
Yeah. Wow. See, I don't even remember that. What was that? Paranoia.
It was Harrison Ford, Gary Oldman, and Liam Hemsworth starred, and
Right.
It's the worst opening of Harrison Ford's career.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Wow.
So
totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it earned $3.5 million in its opening weekend. So in other words, it opened right around where Black Hat opened, basically. Wow. So the Hemsworth brothers not doing so good outside of their franchises is what that tells us.
Yeah. Well.
Well, when you're in a franchise, you'd be smart to stick to it like glue. Mm-hmm. That's my recommendation. Of course, there's no bigger franchise than Star Wars, and as always, we do have some Star Wars news, and that's your department. So fill us in. What's happening in a galaxy far, far away?
Well, for starters, it just seems like we're getting all this news about the. There's a new writer for another Star Wars film, and I'm almost like losing track now. You know what I mean? Because it seems like there's a lot of projects swirling now in the side films, outside of the episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
Right.
And so anyway, I guess Chris Weitz, is that how you say his name?
I always thought it was Whites.
Whites, yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he, I guess he's going to be writing. Which one is he going to be doing? Is it the Gareth Edwards one? He's
doing the Gareth Edwards spinoff, yeah.
Right. And so, he, Chris Weitz. Chris is going to. he's one of these interesting guys. He started out with the American Pie films. Is what really.
Isn't that funny how that that's where he started, and then he went on to win an Oscar.
Yeah, because then he started making these sort of he did About a Boy.
Yeah, he was nominated for an Oscar. Sorry, he didn't win.
Yeah, and he directed what was the other one? A Golden Compass.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all sorts of sort of. Yeah, his career's been pretty interesting. So I honestly don't even really know that I can put. He did Nutty Professor 2. So I don't know that I can really.
You had me. You
put a finger on him. So it'll be interesting what he is going to bring to this, or what they thought he. The movie needed a little more Chris Weitz apparently, and so I'm curious what that means exactly.
Well, he's replacing Gary Whitta, if you remember, who was the guy who was originally gonna direct. And again, this is not even one of the main trilogy ones. This is the spin-off that we don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm. So that'll be kind of interesting. And then there was a sort of just a little interesting tidbit where George Lucas is being interviewed for his the press tour for Strange Magic, by the way,
Yeah,
which we haven't
which
talked
came
about.
out and died instantly at the box office. So.
Doesn't that just kind of make you're like, no, no. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
but you know what? It doesn't, because that's been the history of every non-Star Wars Indiana Jones movie Lucas ever did.
yeah, I know, but like he did, American Graffiti, like THX. I'm supposed to pretend like I've seen and liked. Like,
It's as good as the Pink Panther movies, Brian.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it makes you wonder. I was talking with a friend at work, and she was saying, it kind of really makes you like want to take another look at Star Wars and be like, was this like just like the fluke of all flukes, or was he, how much help did this guy get? And I don't like thinking that way. You know what I mean? Like, I'd really like to believe he is a genius, and he is. You know what? He really is. I think he is a genius idea man, and I think with Star Wars, this is history. Like, he had a lot of help. His wife at the time, like, recut that movie into what it is now. He had, even though he's credited as the sole screenwriter on that, he had help with that screenplay and all the other films. Empire Strikes Back, directed by different people, written by other people, whatever. So I believe he has brilliant ideas, but he just needs talented people around him, and there's no shame in that too. I guess maybe if depending on your ego, you want to just have your stamp on there, but like brilliant people, depend on a lot of other brilliant people, and you make something great. So it just makes me wish that he would take whatever he's got percolating up there and surround himself with some talented people who, I guess at this point, you don't tell George Lucas no, I guess. I don't know, but
Right.
I'd really like to think there's something else that he has left to give. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That we
No,
can
I
get
hear you.
excited about.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that in mind, this isn't going to help my case for that. Lucas apparently had treatments for another trilogy, because he's always said, by the way, he wanted this to be a 9-part trilogy, right?
Well, I think there's so much bullshit that he's. I mean,
Yeah.
it's impossible to cut through that. But I mean, when the sale happened, part of the sale was his treatments for 3 more movies.
Right. So
That was
Disney, and it
so-
seemed to be I felt like that was what they said they were going to do. Was the next movie was going to be based off of something that he started. But in his interviews recently, he said that Disney has decided to not go forward with what he had laid out for the next 3 films to be. So this is what we're getting, episode 7, 8, 9, totally independent of anything Lucas has ever had in mind to do. So that's kind of interesting.
I wonder if when he said that, the executives at Disney like heaved a big sigh of relief.
Oh, for a split second I thought you were gonna say that they're like no, because they wanted like Lucas to still sort of somewhat be tied in there, but unfortunately that's not the case, and maybe they might be sighing a little bit of relief.
Like I mean, I wonder about that. I mean, it's weird, right? Because on the one hand, there's a little part of me that's like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm sure you had that reaction too.
Yeah, and wait, in what way? In that you feel bad
When-
for him as a person, or because you're a little curious that we're not going to see what he had in mind?
Well, yeah, a little column A, a little column B, know. And so there is more of a sense that they've clearly cut the cord, and it's kind of like you don't live here anymore, old man.
But I'm dying to know what he had in mind.
I mean, I wonder. I'm telling you, I've been saying this for a while. I wonder if the movie's gonna come out and people are gonna be like, they should have, like, whatever Lucas had planned, they should have done that. You know what I mean? Like, the wheel is gonna come full circle.
Yeah. I can't imagine it's gonna be bad. I maybe it won't be great. Maybe whatever. I can't imagine it's gonna be bad. But I wonder if it won't have the soul. It'll have its own soul, but I mean, it won't have like the soul connected to the past ones or something.
We've talked about this before. Like, say what you will about the prequels and how they don't fit stylistically or tonally or even aesthetically with the original trilogy. All of them still feel like the product of one guy's imagination.
Yes.
And I, we said this, like, we did our episode back in 2012 when the sale happened. I was like, that's not going to be the case ever again from now on.
Yeah.
It's going to be by committee, and I don't say that as a negative. I'm just like, it is what it is,
Right.
And so this is a reflection of that, where it's like, he's the guy in charge. He's the man who dreamed it up. But you know what? He's not that important anymore.
Right.
We got what he wanted from it, what we wanted from it. And actually, now that I think about it, remember Michael Arndt was writing the script, and then they kicked him to the curb, and they brought in like J.J. Abrams wrote it himself. So maybe that's what we saw was that decision made like into the process that, we're just going to do something different.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my thought.
Yeah, maybe.
So make of that what you will. So whatever Star Wars has in the future, it's something that even George Lucas has no idea about.
That must be the weirdest thing for him to go see that movie.
And that's, I mean, genuinely, like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm as curious to see his reaction to the movie as I am to see the movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll never know because obviously.
Yeah. He's gonna like do the PR answer.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, yeah. But regardless, that brings us right up to the end of our time. Believe it or not, Brian, we managed to talk about headlines and all kinds of other stuff, and that took us right up to the end.
Cool.
Go figure.
That's fun. I had a great time.
I always have a great time recording the show. So happy to talk with you and happy to talk with the audience. And while we're talking to the audience, Brian, why don't you tell them where they can find you online?
They can find me at. I was trying to formulate a joke, and it was not coming together.
Bravo.
They can find me at everythingbrian.blogspot.com, Brian with an I, and I also have a Twitter handle that I never use called @everythingbrian.
And let's see, you're up to 4 tweets and holding. So
I haven't tweeted in 2015 yet. Maybe I should do that.
That's very disappointing, Brian.
Ah.
And of course, you can find us at the Movie Film Podcast Facebook page, which is facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast. You can also hit up our website, moviefilmpodcast.com. Also, go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio, leave us your star rating, write us a review, let us know how we're doing. Also, you can email us at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. As for me, you can find me at zakiscorner.com. That's ZAKIS Corner. And also at the Huffington Post, where my movie reviews go up regularly, as does this show. On behalf of my colleague, Brian Hall, this is Zaki Hassan, member of the San Francisco Film Critics Circle. We need to add the
yeah. No, you need to say that, and we need to have, like, a chorus, like, da-da-da-da.
We do. We need to... See, I need our listeners to step up and kind of do some audio wizardry for us, because we're just too lazy to do that. Man.
So
it'd be nice. Yeah, give us some theme musics and stuff.
Bumpers. Nice. We need bumpers.
We desperately need jingles and bumpers. So jingles and bumpers, by the way, worst strip club of all time. Yeah. But regardless, on behalf of my colleague Brian Hall, I am Zaki Hassan. This is the Movie Film Podcast, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.
Jingles and bumpers.
Welcome